to stand in the presence of your holiness, in the pastures of your promises, where you fill up our souls. At the feet of your majesty now, mercy that's still flowing down from that old rugged cross. In the wonder, pour out your presence, open our eyes to endless awe. Baptize our passions, tear down our idols, till we're amazed by who you are. Awaken the wonder. The privilege to stand in the presence of your holiness, in the pastures of your promises, where you fill up our souls. What an honor to bow at the feet of your majesty now, in the mercy that's still flowing down from that old rugged cross. Awaken the wonder, pour out your presence, open our eyes to endless awe, and baptize our passions, tear down our idols, till we're amazed by who you are. Awaken the wonder. Speak to the darkness, breathe life in these bones. Oh, pour out revival that the whole world would know. Speak to the darkness, breathe life in these bones. Pour out revival that the whole world would know. To endless song, baptize our passions, tear down our idols, till we're amazed by who you are. Awaken the wonder. Awaken the wonder, pour out your presence, open our eyes to endless awe, and baptize our passions, tear down our idols, till we're amazed by who you are. Awaken the wonder. Awaken the wonder. Speak to the darkness, breathe life in these bones. Oh, pour out revival that the whole world would know. Amen. Savior, I come, quiet my soul. Remember, redemption still, when your blood is still for my ransom. Everything I once held dear, I count it all as lost. Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross. You were as I, tempted and tried. You the Word became flesh, bore my sin and death. Now you're risen. Everything I once held dear, I count it all as lost. Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross. To your heart, to your heart. Lead me to your heart. Lead me to your heart. Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross. Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross. Thank you, God, for bringing us to our knees because of how awesome you are. I pray that you would just open our hearts to receive the message that you have today, God, that you would help us to know that we're enough, that we are so important to you, that you would speak to us, that the God who created the whole universe wants to speak to us personally. God, that you died for us so that we could live, and we could live a full, happy life according to your plan, God. I thank you. I pray that you would be with Jacob as he brings your word. I pray that your words would be spoken through him, God, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Finley, hold on. Finley, come here. Look at me. You have to stop crying. Okay?
Yeah.
Come here right now. Look at mommy for a minute. You stop crying right now, okay?
Okay.
Are you crying?
No.
Not any.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm laughing.
You're happy?
I'm laughing.
Oh, yeah, you're laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to watch Sophia?
Yeah.
Okay, no more crying, okay?
I think I'm a little bit tired.
You think you're a little bit tired. Okay, you can take a little nap?
A little bit?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
You know, she was crying her eyes out, and her eyes were red, her cheeks were red, but what did she say? I'm okay, I'm okay. And that's what the message is going to be about today. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay as a Christian, it's okay as a person not to be okay. Why is it every time that we go to church and we're like, oh, how are you doing? What's always the answer? We're doing great. God is good. Hallelujah. Now, with 185 people on a Sunday, I'm sure there's more than half that their life is chaos. But what do? It's good. It's all right. Nobody comes up to you and says, you know, you ask them, how are you doing? Oh, let me tell you, I got this, I got this. I mean, no one does that. And that's something that we're going to be talking about today is because we have fears. We get sad, where we have trust issues. We feel betrayed. This is just part of life, but yet we just kind of, we're okay. We're okay. And this is a good point that I want to start off with is going to be that, you know, Jesus was fully human and fully God at the same time. I want to talk about Jesus' fully human side. Do you realize, too, that Jesus wasn't okay at times? Jesus was not okay. The Son of God, the one that was sinless, struggled. So we're not exempt from it. But I want to look at the example of what Jesus did and how he handled it and what he went through. In order to know the good news, you first have to go through the bad news. If someone says, I have good news for you and bad news for you, what's the first thing you want to know? You don't want to know the good news. Give me the bad news first, right? In order to have good news, you have to go through the bad news first. Today we're going to be in lots of verses, but all of it's going to be from Matthew 26, 36 through 56. I'm going to go through it, describe it, then we're going to go through some points. Matthew 26, 36 says, Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, Sit here while I go over there and pray. And his 12 were there. His crew was there. His boys were there. Sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him and began to be sorrowful and troubled. First of all, the Son of God began to be sorrowful and troubled. Jesus, sorrowful and troubled. He then said to them, My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Here at this point, Jesus was not okay. But yet, with tears coming down his eyes, he didn't say, I'm okay, I'm okay. What did he say? Here at this point, he is saying, my soul's overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. It is weighing on him to the point of death. He is troubled to the point of death. He is not okay. Verse 39, going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Taking this cup means, I don't want this. The Son of God has a will for his life, but yet he fell on his face. Is there any times that you have just felt like life is just so heavy, you just fall on your face? Sometimes when Bella throws a tantrum and she thinks the world is ending, she just falls on the ground. But at what point in your life, trouble in your life, do you just want to give up and say, God, I don't want this. I know your will for me, but I don't want to do this. Every single one of us struggles with that. And it's God's will for us to go through it. And we know we have to go through it, but what does our flesh say? I don't want it anymore, God. Take it from me. I don't want this. I want to quit. No more. Take it from me. Verse 40, Then he returned to the disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. So Jesus' day is just getting worse. Who did he take to the garden with him? His disciples, his crew, his God squad. And he asked them, pray with me, pray for me. My heart hurts. I am scared. I am troubled. And then they fall asleep. In our lives, we have that friend that we think we can count on, and then guess what happens? They're not there when you need them. They're not there when they need them. Jesus was not okay here, and now he's having to tell his closest group to see his closest group not even do what he's asked. At the time that he needs he needs them the most, they're not there. Verse 41 says, watch and pray so that we will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Falling into temptation means going against God's will. You have God's will here. It says here that the spirit is willing, meaning Jesus knew what he needed to do. But what is his flesh saying? What is his desires? What is his human side saying? I don't want to do it. I am scared. I am nervous. I am troubled. The Spirit knows that he has to do it. There's many times that y'all have issues within your own lives. It may be in the relationship. It may be friends that you know you cannot hang around this group. You know what's good for you, but the flesh says, I can't leave this group, or I can't leave this person. Why is it so hard to get up Sunday morning? Sunday morning is the hardest day to get up. And I always hear the excuse, it's the only day to sleep in. No, you can sleep in any day you want. You just choose to get up and go to school. You can choose to get up and go to church. The Spirit knows what you need to go to church. The flesh says, oh, my bed is so comfortable. Verse 42. Through verse 42, the disciples fell asleep 2 more times. 2 more times. So with this, and this is the question too, because the disciples, they must have seen Jesus. I mean, he was in sorrow. He was troubled. The Bible doesn't describe what he was kind of go through, but you know that when Jesus says, if Jesus came and told you, for the next hour I need you to pray, the last thing I'm going to do is what? Fall asleep. This is the same person that's been doing miracles, ministry. They have seen him do many, many miracles. But yet this is the question for us. While the disciples were sleeping, while the trouble was going around them, have we, as Christians, fallen asleep for what's going around us? Have we just fallen asleep and closed our eyes to what this generation is bringing? It's not the norm to go to school and say, hey, we may have a gun threat today. That is not the norm. You can't even go to Walmart without being nervous now. That's not the norm. How many kids are just in high school? 2,000, 3,000? Roughly 3,000? We average about 50 to 60 kids here. I think NAS maybe average the same. With all the churches, I'm going to say there may be about 200 to 300 kids that are in church. 200 to 300 kids with 3,000 just in high school. That's not including junior high. But yet us as a generation, guess what we've done? We've accepted it. We have just fallen asleep and we're okay sleeping. We're just okay with it. And we ask people, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. When your life is falling apart. We have closed our eyes to the issues. We have closed our eyes to lust, sex, porn, pride, anger. Suicide is common. When someone commits suicide, does our heart even hurt? Or do we have our eyes closed to it? Do we own any responsibility in that? That is what Jesus is saying. We have given into temptation that it's okay. Because guess what? With the flesh, it's okay just to push that aside. and just continue our lives. Verse 43, when he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. And here is the part that I really haven't taken much meaning until I actually read it. So he left them and went away once more. So Jesus came back, he found them sleeping for the third time. And guess what Jesus did? It says he left them. And he went away. That statement right there is full of disappointment. Wouldn't you say that? Do you feel that disappointment in Jesus when he says he just left them? He told them twice, and the third time he says, I can't do this. I'm going. Even Jesus dealt with disappointment from 12 of his people. Couldn't stay up and pray with him, for him. So the Son of God has disappointment, just like you have disappointment. Why do I, believe that Jesus came as a human? Because we will have no excuse when we go through it. Because we go through the same thing that Jesus went through. The next verses, it says 46 through 56. I'm not going to read it all. But basically this is whenever it says the hour has come. Judas kisses him. And then Peter cuts off the ear of the guard. He puts it back. But the very last statement I want to talk about. After all this happened, they took Jesus. And then it says, then all the disciples deserted and fled. His closest group at the time when he needed them, guess what? All 12. All 12 deserted him. What do you think Jesus felt? Loneliness. He felt betrayal, betrayed. This is what he is. Imagine if your crew that you needed, you've already, you're at the point of death because you know what's going to happen to you. You're going to have to take the cross. You're telling God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And you're trying to find with every strength within you to do it. And then you ask for help, and not only do they fall asleep on you, but then they leave you when they take you. So all of this is going through Jesus right now, this one night. Disappointment, sorrowful, hurt, betrayal, disappointment. All of this is going through him. And he knows he's going to have to bear the cross. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay it's okay to feel that. It's okay to say, hey, how are you doing? I'm disappointed right now. Because I'm questioning what God has for me right now. I know what God wants me to do, but I don't want to do it. It's okay to say that. It's okay to say, God, help me, because only through you I can do this. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to admit that. It's what you do when you feel it is what makes the difference. Whenever that disappointment comes, whenever that betrayal comes, whenever all that sorrowfulness comes, it's what you do is what makes the difference. It's not okay to be okay when you feel like escaping. Take this cup from me. Jesus just wanted to just escape. He wanted just to, I don't want this. Take it. Let me escape. Let me get out of here. Take me out of here. The question is, where do you escape to? See, some of us escape through the bottle. Some of us escape through our relationships. Some people escape just to be by ourselves. You see, if you do any of this, you're still going to have heartache at the end of it. If you escape to a guy or a girl or a relationship to escape reality, you're going to end up with heartache. You're going to have to escape like Jesus gave the example. Where did Jesus go? He went to his Father. He went and cried out to his Father. That's where he escaped to. It's okay not to be okay when you feel alone. It's okay to feel alone. It's okay to feel loneliness. Just me as a pastor, I don't share this very often, but I'm going to be very honest with you because you know I'm honest with you. As a pastor, it gets lonely sometimes. Especially with your family. And what I mean by my brothers, my mom and dad and my brothers. It gets very lonely. Because of the fact is I'm not included in anything. Because of the way they live their lifestyle. You know, my nephews have birthday parties and I found out about it on Instagram. My brother will come to Dallas and I'll find out that he's in town through Instagram, through Snapchat. It gets lonely. It also just gets lonely whenever we pour into every leader here, we pour into you. And there's times I don't have strength, but I have to have the strength for you. It gets lonely. And it's okay to be lonely. But you have to know that where did Jesus, in the passage too, in the passage of Luke, and in Luke it says this, the same thing, an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. So when he was praying to God, he started his tears and his sweat turned into blood. He was bleeding, sweating blood. That's how much pain, not pain, but troubled he was. Sweating blood. That's how stressed out he was. And when he went to escape, when he was feeling alone, he went to God, and God, from heaven, an angel appeared and strengthened him. You see, you can't have your angel if you're not going to pray for the angel. If you're escaping and you're feeling alone, you have to go to God. And God will send his angel and strengthen you. But yet we try to find strength on our own for one, but we try to find strength off of somebody else. Where do you go when you feel alone? Do you go to God? When he felt alone, when the disciples were asleep, it says he went back and prayed. He went back and prayed. That's Jesus' example. It's okay not to be okay when you feel betrayed. Us as humans, when we are done wrong, what do? We want to get them back. We hold a grudge on certain things. You know, me and my family were hurt deeply in the past. And it took a long time to clean my heart out because I wanted that certain place to fall apart. Why? Because they hurt me. But most importantly, they hurt my family. I felt betrayed. So guess what I wanted? I wanted them to feel the same pain. And all of us too, when someone does us wrong, guess what our first reaction to do? If they hurt us, we're going to hurt them right back. Where do you go when you feel betrayed? When Jesus felt betrayed by his 12 closest friends, where do you go? Do you declare war against the other person? Who feeds the betrayal? Is that feeding coming from God the Father, trying to give it over to him, or does the flesh take over? It's okay not to be okay when you feel unloved. You can imagine that through all of this, what Jesus was feeling. How he asked his father to take the cup, and his father would not take the cup. He asked help from his friends, and his friends said, "No, I'm too sleepy." And then when he was taken, his friends left. There's times that we're going to feel unloved. But through the angel, like I said, the angel strengthened him. Jesus had the courage and strength to move forward with God's will. A lot of us have a trouble, or we have the lack of courage to continue God's will because we don't know. God's not going to tell you the whole details in line. He's going to tell you, take this step because I want you to take this step, and this is your will. And we take this step not knowing what's next. You have to have the courage to follow God's will. And as the worship team comes up, there's a couple points I want to make. I want to open the altar up. And what this means when I say open the altar up, it's something very simple. One, it's crying out to God. There's nothing special about this altar, but it's something special about what you do. You have to step out in faith. Peter had to step out of the boat in order for the miracle to happen. If Peter would have stayed in the boat, he would have never had the miracle. It's okay not to be okay, but do you have the faith to step out and ask for an angel? Are you ready to not be lying to yourself, to be lying to others? You can lie to others and tell them you're okay, but the worst thing is when you lie to yourself. Because God knows. So here, what do you do? What do you do? You do the same thing as Jesus did. How do you react to this? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Even Jesus knew this was not easy. Number one is you got to pour yourself out to Him. You got to pour yourself out to God. It says that Jesus fell and He cried to Jesus. He poured Himself out. You got to be real with God and say, God, this is going to be very hard. Please strengthen me. Please be with me. There's no correct way to talk to God. There's no wrong way to talk to God. You just got to be honest with Him and be real with Him. And say, God, I'm not okay. Help me in this area. Shed some light on it. Be honest. If you're not okay, you tell Him I'm not okay. If you are okay, maybe you can ask Him to open your eyes because you've been asleep to everything that's going on around you. And last is you've got to look for your friends. You've got to look for the real friends that will stay awake with you, that will correct you when you're doing wrong. You know, like I said, whenever I almost died because of my ruptured brain aneurysm, I had no clue what was going on. But of course, my wife would go into school, and Bella was just born. She would go to the visiting hour because I was ICU. She'll get there at 5 o'clock, stay till 6 o'clock because of hours, come back at 9 o'clock because I was visiting hours, and we lived an hour away from the hospital. Anytime there was visiting hours, she was there trying to figure out where the Caleb was, who's picking them up from school, where's Bella, a newborn. Driving, she hates driving. I think most of y'all know that, right? She's okay to drive in Hereford, but anywhere else she will not drive. Who's going to be there? Who's going to hold you accountable? You need relationships to guide you, but we're going to leave these on the screen here. Because I first want you to understand it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be, you will feel loneliness. You will feel heartache. You will be betrayed. Even Jesus felt all of this. You're not excluded. But how are we going to react to it? If you need prayer, we have many leaders here that need it, that are here to pray with you. But it's not my faith. It's going to be your faith that's going to make the difference.
Y'all just worship how you feel fit. If you want to come up here and kneel, you can. If you want to stand up, you can. If you need to stay in your seat and pray, you can. If you need to go and find a leader, they're going to be in the back. We're going to spread out around. They would love to pray with you. It's not a scary thing. They just love you. So I'll worship however you feel fit. joys of grace. So take His heart, Lord. I'll be your vessel, the world to see your love in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down.